Welcome back to the More People Podcast. I'm your host, Richard Hanwell, Managing Director for More People. Today we've got our very own Non-Exec Director, James Ash. Welcome to James.
Thanks, Rich.
James, for the people that don't know who you are and your association with ourselves, would you be so kind as to give us a small introduction?
I guess I've been involved in recruitment for 24 years now. The last 10 or so, I've been a non-exec to the recruitment industry, and probably we were just talking about 6 or 7 years involved with More People.
Yeah.
So I work with, predominantly recruitment companies. I'm on the board of 5 at the moment, sort of food and beverage businesses as well, just to keep me interested.
Yeah, very man. I've had the privilege of tasting some of that wonderful beer as well.
Exactly.
Like you say, Jane, you've been in and around the recruitment industry for a large period of time now. What do you think the future of the recruitment agency workforce looks like?
For me, the useful way to think about it is that we're brokers, and the nature of broking anything is changes over time.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the beauty for recruitment is that certain things will become increasingly commoditized. But at the end of the day, we're dealing with two human beings. We're getting them together, and that, more than selling a product or a service, requires that sort of broker type person in the middle that makes it difficult to commoditize. So I think the higher end of recruitment, the more high touch part of recruitment, will continue to grow and become more valuable. While some of the sort of lower end of the economy that will continue to become more commoditized.
I think when you look at recruitment for ourselves, I don't like the term agency, but in that kind of space, everyone has to win, right? You know, the recruiter has to win, the client has to win in the way in which they get the employee they want, and the employee ends up securing the actual role. I think sometimes recruitment will get a bad vibe or what have you, but realistically, everyone has to come together. Everyone has to agree. It's quite a good news story when that happens, to your point about brokering the deal. It's the introduction of various different career pathways.
Yeah, I think, look, sometimes it goes swimmingly well in a particular placement situation, but I think having that person in the middle that understands both parties well, understands where they're trying to get to, perhaps particularly on the candidate side, because a big deal for a candidate moving job, teases out the thing that they might not be prepared to say to the future prospective employer, and just oils the wheels of that process.
Yeah.
As you say, it's got to be a win-win at the end of the day. The worst thing is that left to their own devices, a client and candidate might not end up making that match, and the candidate joining that customer. Hopefully, with a good broker, a good recruiter, they join on the right terms as well.
I speak to a lot of recruiters through my personal network and colleagues and what have you. A huge amount of recruiters turn around and coin that phrase, they fell into recruitment. Have you seen a certain type of individual from a certain discipline or what have you join recruitment that works best, if that kind of makes sense? Because if you take our team, there's so different manner of backgrounds within them. Have you seen any kind of area or industry where people have joined from where it kind of works best?
If I'm honest, no. I think people are better joining the industry early on in their working lives, their careers, but the sort of innate combination of hard work and social skill is what matters in recruitment. There are other jobs you can do that teach you some of those things and how to enhance those kind of natural qualities in people, but often there's a bit of a downside as well. We used to hire a lot of people out of real estate, for example.
Okay.
But the working style of showing people houses during a day from a hard work perspective is very different to a recruiter who's predominantly sitting at a desk during the day, for example.
Yeah, agreed. You mentioned earlier you're involved in recruitment businesses in various different parts of the world. Ironically, we worked in Hong Kong at the same time and drank on the same street and never bumped into each other for a couple of years. But when you look at the different companies that you work with, what kind of differentiates the way of recruitment or potentially the similarities? I know you've got interests in Asia, in America, the UK, London, etc. What kind of differentiates the ways of recruitment?
I think that the fundamentals are still the same. The trick is being able to compare and contrast and ask yourself the question, what's different? and every jurisdiction is different, both in terms of how the employees operate, how we train, develop people, the way they operate their day-to-day work schedule, right through to the way customers operate. The UK is probably the most advanced recruitment market in the world in terms of the way that, particularly on a very corporate level, procurement and goes beyond even an HR function. So it's understanding that and adapting your operating model to work around it and make the most of it.
Interesting that you said that the UK is the most developed, because it blows my brain to a degree that they've got this multi-billion-pound industry that's absolutely colossal and yet has no governing body. So there's no real rules and regulations around it, as opposed to with finance, legal, etc., which gives a creative license. But do you think it causes potential issues at the same time?
I think it does. I think there's enough there, particularly on the contractor side, to protect the process. I think you're right that most recruitment businesses, I forget, the average size of a recruitment business in the UK is probably 20 people or something. They're small entrepreneurial businesses. Across the 1,000 odd staff and the businesses I'm involved with at the moment, I suspect the average age is probably 27 or something, 26, 27. So it's attracts a lot of young people. But you go elsewhere in the world, if you go to, as you've done in Hong Kong, but you go to Sydney, you go to Austin in Texas, you go to New York or Miami, go to Munich or Berlin, you find a huge number of expat Brit recruiters, a disproportionate number, because the market here is super competitive. If you can succeed here, you can succeed anywhere, is that sort of old adage.
Super. When we look at the recruitment industry, we always have got things on the horizon. You joined the recruitment industry pre-LinkedIn. As I said previously on a podcast, it's really told me they're going to bring in this massive free database where everyone uploads basically their CV and you can search across it. Clients can, it might be the death of the agency recruiter, yet we work alongside it and it benefits us massively. AI could well be on the horizon on that front. It will be in some way, shape or form. What do you think are threats or opportunities for agency recruitment in the UK?
The opportunity is to be that high touch, right? So I'm pre-LinkedIn. I was in there in the early stages of job boards, and job boards were going to be the death of recruitment. Right?
Yeah.
End users, companies would advertise their jobs, get the applicants, and hire directly that way. And they soon realised the amount of admin associated with that, if nothing else, but also just the expertise that broker provides. As I said, it's very hard to get to the end of be negotiating an offer. As both the client and essentially the sort of the broker. So having that high touch service is where the opportunity is, I guess. At the completely other end of the market, big events, big change programs, stuff like that, where you need large numbers of people at short notice. Again, there is that expertise in delivering on those sort of projects, which is where the opportunity is.
I think also, if you look at mortgages, by way of example, I always use a broker, because I'm not going to go to every individual bank to see what they've got. I can go to one individual that can give me the full array of what's on offer and what's right for my needs. I guess from an agency recruiter perspective, they have those opportunities that they can discuss at length various different models and what might be right for them. I also think cards on the table, money motivated agency recruiters, whether it be career pathway or commission, I know it seems to be a dirty word at times, but it is relevant, are hugely passionate individuals that will work long into the evening, right? And will strive to make that placement happen for their client.
As we know, good consultants make a couple of placements a month, right? Working full-time, long hours, really hard at it. So that's indicative of, if it was easier than that, anyone could do it. So the overused recruitment phrase, it's not rocket science, but there must be something in it, because lots of people fail trying to be successful at it. And the guys that are really successful still work very hard for what is a relatively small number of deals in each month.
Indeed. As you said earlier, you've been working with and alongside and part of MorePeople for quite a number of years, and I've seen a lot of change in 3.5 years. God knows how much change you've seen. What have been the real milestones for more people in their journey with your stewardship?
I think there's been obviously change at the top of the business, people like you coming in, Andy moving into his role in terms of running the business. I think what I saw in day one was MorePeople was a business with a huge amount of knowledge of the industry, who had a huge, this potential to really deliver for customers, but were essentially punching below their weight. And I guess that's the fundamental changes of the business now. Doesn't punch above its weight yet, but is really delivering on some of the potential it had, right from day one in terms of that market presence, market knowledge, relationships with clients, relationships with candidates. And I think that's the biggest change in terms of the day-to-day operating of the business. And then, as I say, kind of you and Andy now moving into running the business day-to-day.
Yeah, and I think you coined a phrase to me quite recently, as we'd gone from a business, I think when I joined it was about 14, 15 heads. We've kind of got the business now to a stage where it's 32, 33 heads with some more on the horizon. But you described it to me as the troublesome teenage years of a business. Just describe to me what you kind of mean by that.
I think in any business, you've got to have some level of patience in how you grow. I love the phrase, you want to get to the future faster. So I'm impatient about growing, but there's times where you have to let people bed in. You have to, particularly as you hire more people, you have to let them bed in, let the company feel comfortable in itself again before you push on. If you try and push too fast, too hard, inevitably you end up taking that sort of one step forward, two steps back. And I think the business has done a pretty good job of avoiding that pitfall. I think we could have pushed on a lot more post-COVID. And more quickly having moved into this office space, and we've done it in a much more controlled, considered way.
Yeah, I think you have to have all of the infrastructure there. You have to have all the right processes, procedures, and it does take time. And I think sometimes you can be too risky or too risk averse, and I think that's definitely happened with us. But at times on both ends, I think we now sit in a situation where nearly everything feels right in terms of the back office, the infrastructure, the job roles. The irony being now it is about getting more people into more people, but we're in a better place to do it. We've got a really strong squad. What do you think the future lies for more people?
I think, as you say, that the growth is that sort of exponential growth rather than straight line growth. So we've been on that curve, and we're starting to come up that hockey stick out the other side. And I think, all things being equal, that's what we should see out of this business over the next couple of years. Is we're talking earlier about moving towards 50 people. How we deliver on those marketplaces. I think from a customer perspective, customers should feel the difference in what MorePeople can provide when we've got sort of divisions dealing with their particular sector or type of recruitment that we're working with them on, rather than one or two individuals, which is what it perhaps historically was. And as we're sort of moving now towards teams, I think we've got whole divisions. We'll really start punching above weight then.
Yeah, I think it future-proofs the business. People have time off, they have holidays, etc. Being able to go to a team of individuals helps with that offering. I think being able to pass on the expertise, the experiences, etc. And then that enables more career pathways for the internal team, and helps out on the retention piece as well. But it all seems very exciting.
But look, we're like our clients, right? We find it very hard to find and hire really good, talented people, and particularly management level people. So inevitably that means we're better off mostly growing our own.
Yeah,
and that's where that patience comes in. It takes time to get people in, develop them, get them, expert at the core part of the job, and then they can move into management roles.
Yeah, and to your point, you want to get to the future faster, but you can't rush it. Otherwise, these people aren't ready for management. But that group of individuals out there at the minute certainly look like they're ready. They're a strong bunch, and then hopefully we can push them through the ranks.
You can't skip stages, but the question is how can you accelerate between the stages?
Yeah, definitely. James, listen, thank you very much for your time today. Absolute pleasure, and I'm sure we'll have you back again soon.
Great to see you.
Cheers.